Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Pizzino. I am with Sales with Strategies Group, and joining me today for this presentation is Rebecca Helton, one of our senior consultants, who's going to take us on a tour of Acumatica in just a few minutes. Just wanted to share with you the agenda today. Just going to go through a small presentation on why Acumatica and how we came to become an Acumatica reseller and the reasons why we did that and why our customers are excited that we did. And then we'll do the overview demo of Acumatica, which will be pretty much the majority of this presentation. And then we'll save some time at the end for any questions that you may have. In your control panel, you should see a Q&A button. If you'll just click there and enter your question in to the display window, we'll try to hit that towards the end of our presentation. So one of the big things that we lacked in our Sage product, and you do as well, is the ability to flexibly deploy and expose the system to the web in a clean way. And Acumatica has a couple of different options. One is to do the public cloud, which is the typical SaaS offering. And then also, if your company prefers, you can also do your own private cloud, hosting it on your own server. So we have true cloud portability. The other big reason is that Acumatica is available anywhere on any device. You can do pretty much anything on a tablet or a phone that you can do on a desktop. Everything that you need is exposed to all those devices. So it gives you the flexibility of taking care of some business when you're away from the office. Acumatica also has what they call their customer bill of rights. And I wanted to use this slide to just point out a couple of things that are different and unique, and I think would be important to you as you consider this. One of the big changes is that Acumatica has completely basically redesigned the way that software licensing is done. So what Acumatica does is, rather than charge you for licenses, they give you unlimited licenses, and those licenses can be given to anybody inside or outside your organization. The way we price the product is by consumption, and we can talk a little bit more about that if we have some time. The other big thing is that they have publicly announced that their pricing will never increase more than 3% year over year. So you have a real opportunity to kind of focus your down the road or examine your down the road pricing. As you probably know, with Sage, they arbitrarily increase their pricing, sometimes as much as 10%, and that caused a lot of pain for some people. And then number 7, I think, is also important. So if you've looked at SaaS products before, if you've investigated a SaaS environment, there's always this question of who owns the data. What happens if I want to leave? Well, Acumatica has put straight out in front that your data is your data, and you can access that data at any time. So you're free to leave Acumatica of your own accord without any kind of hassle. And then the last part, number 10, is the dual layers of support. Of course, you have support through us with Strategies Group, but you also have Acumatica support backing you. Another big piece of Acumatica is the ability to rapidly integrate stuff. This is an open product. You can see here a host of applications that are well known on the cloud that are already integrated with Acumatica. We have multiple industry editions. We're not going to talk specifically about any today, but we'll be happy to spend some time with you and kind of do a more personalized demo in your particular area of interest. But just wanted to show you the breadth of the product. And I'll kind of skip through some of these pretty quickly. So we have a field service edition if you're doing service work. We have a commerce edition. We're fully integrated into BigCommerce and Shopify. And we have a third-party integration into Magento. Distribution, you can see some of the features here. One thing that I want to point out is that, with Sage, you're probably used to having to bring in a lot of third parties to do different things. And one is doing barcode scanning, which you see here with our warehouse management system. Acumatica has a native built barcode scanning system. And then our manufacturing edition, you can see some of the functionality there. We've just in the last few months introduced the capable to promise functionality. And of course, it's being constantly added to and developed. About Acumatica is, since you probably haven't heard of them, the industry analysts definitely have. And you can see here that Acumatica has been rated by Nucleus Research, which is an organization out of Boston that looks at ERP systems and evaluates them. And Acumatica is right there at the top of the list. And then this is more of a user-based sentiment picture, and you can see that Acumatica scores extremely well there. And just some other awards that Acumatica has won. And with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Rebecca.
Thank you, John. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And hopefully everybody can see that. And what we're starting off with today is an example of a home screen that Acumatica offers, which is a customer-based dashboard. So first of all, as John was talking about, Acumatica is cloud-based, either hosted in their cloud or configured and installed on your own private cloud. Either way, you get to Acumatica by logging into a browser or into a mobile device. And then once you get logged into Acumatica, you are at a home screen of your choosing. And in this particular case, I have an example of a customer-centric dashboard or a series of dashboard widgets. And this is one of the central structures of Acumatica, is the ability to operate from a dashboard that looks something like this. I'll show you a couple of different examples so you get an idea of the different kinds of things that you can present on a dashboard. But this is one in particular that I like because it presents to you customer-centric information that pulls different pieces and parts of customer-related data from throughout the system. So for example, we're looking here at sales orders that are in the system that are ready to ship or perhaps late. We also have some areas down here that are opportunities. So this comes from the CRM area of Acumatica, and CRM is a component that's available and part of the integrated pieces of Acumatica. It's not separate, it's built completely into the Acumatica system. We have receivables data here, support data should you need anything for support cases, also from the CRM area, some sales analysis information, and then also a little bit more sales data down here, and then a listing of activities related to the customers here and some customer contacts. So the idea here being that with dashboards, you can pull information from multiple places in the system. And one of the prevailing themes here being information that you care about. So lots of ERPs have lots of data all over the place, but how do you get to that data, the data that you care about, the information that you care about, and not all the stuff that you don't care about, and how do you get to it quickly? So dashboard presentations are one way that Acumatica solves that problem. As we go through the presentation today, we'll talk about some of the other ways that you can be presented with just the information that you care about to perform the functions that you need to do to run your organization. So another thing about the dashboard widgets here is that they are not just pictures with numbers behind them and pretty colors. There is also, they are functional. And so if I click, for example, on that orders to ship, this is a listing in the system of all of the orders that are in the system that have not shipped yet, and with information about when they are in fact scheduled to ship. And you'll see here that there are a few that are highlighted in red. These are because the orders are late. They were supposed to have shipped either a very long time ago. You can see by the darker red here that that's quite old. This one's fairly old too. And then this one down here is a little bit more recent, but still late. So focusing in on just the things that you need to pay attention to. I don't have to go run a report that says, show me all my orders. I can just click on a button that says, show me all the things that I need to pay attention to. And then from here, I can decide what to do about them. Couple of other things that I'll show you here and with Acumatica and drilling down and drilling around through the system. So from here, I can click on this specific sales order and it will open up and I can view anything that I need to view about it. So I can see the customer, can see the products that are on the order. I can perhaps see how that order is expected to ship, any discounts, shipments maybe that have taken place already, payments that have been made on the order. So all the information there right there on the sales order screen. So again, starting from just this dashboard widget that shows me kind of a metric of the information that's available in the system, but drilling all the way down from there. Again, I didn't have to run a report. I didn't have to go navigate to another screen or menu option, just being able to get directly to where I need to go. Easy to use, flexible, easy to navigate. I'm going to actually click on there one more time to show you another element of this being able to get to information easily, is that this particular screen also offers up what's called a side panel. So just going to pop that out. And and you'll see this again in a minute in another screen. So this allows me to highlight the specific record on a list over here, and then have Acumatica show me the screen that is related to that record without having to drill down. So a minute ago, I clicked into this, popped up a screen. This way, if I just maybe want to click through quickly and take a peek at whatever it is that I'm looking at, but without opening up another whole screen, I can do that. So that is a side panel. And again, I'll show you another example of that in a bit. So we looked at this dashboard. One other thing that I'll show you is this is a great example of one that is filterable. So perhaps maybe I want to see this specific information, but available for only one customer. So Acumatica has the ability with any dashboards to have sort of dynamic parameters for those dashboards that filters data so that you can kind of see that for just part of your system rather than everything all combined together. And then dashboards are generally roles-based. So that was just one example of one that we were looking at. The dashboards that you see listed here are designed to be sort of a representative example of the types of dashboards that a company like yours might have based on the different people that are in your organization and that may be using Acumatica. So if you have a controller role, then you may have a dashboard that looks something like this, a little bit more finance oriented, cash flow oriented, customer and collections oriented. So if you are that person in your organization, you may want to see information that looks more like this. If you're kind of more of a salesperson within your organization, maybe you're going to see information about leads and contacts from the CRM area and opportunities from there. Or you're going to maybe want to see your pipeline broken out into what are the different stages of those opportunities, so you can kind of see where things are and how they balance out. If you are a warehouse person within your organization, maybe you're going to take a look at shipping related or fulfillment related type information. So in clicking through these, I'm just kind of trying to give you a taste of what are all the different roles that might exist in your organization and how Acumatica can provide just the stuff that those roles care about, rather than having to dig through a bunch of different places throughout the system. Again, as John mentioned, the licensing model with Acumatica is such that if you need to add another user into your system or allow another user into your system, you don't have to buy a license for that. So you can let anybody and everybody into your system that is appropriate. And of course, with the security access and security restrictions that you would want to impose. So anybody who needs to get into the system directly and do what they need to do can do that. And then the last thing about the dashboards here is that these are just examples of what Acumatica provides out of the box. And in fact, one of the next versions of Acumatica that's being released, 2021 R1, has even more vastly improved dashboards. So we're looking forward to being able to see those coming up in the future. But you can also design the dashboards that you need to see for your company. So for example, you want to see how certain product lines are selling relative to others. You could build a dashboard for that. Or if you wanted to see top customers of a specific customer grouping, you could see that. So you set up and configure Acumatica data and information in a way that serves your business, and then you can set up the dashboards that that provide that information to you, easily accessible. So I'm going to move on to just some more general, what does Acumatica look like, how it works, what are some of the features that make it easy to use, flexible, and easy to navigate. And I'm going to do a lot of the rest of this sort of show and tell today in the context of sales orders, because that provides a good canvas for being able to present you with some Acumatica features and its usability. So I am over here in the sales order module, and this also gives me an opportunity to talk about what we see over here on the left, which is the Acumatica's modules, or as Acumatica refers to them, workspaces. So the system is divided up into a number of different workspaces according to the areas of functionality within your system. And you'll see here just kind of some of the base ones: the finance, general ledger, payables, receivables, and the operations modules here. John was referring earlier to field service edition, manufacturing edition, e-commerce edition. So if you have any of those specialty areas that you don't see here, those would also show up on the workspace if you have those as part of your system. So, and then having security access that you set up with Acumatica, very easy, very flexible. You can grant or deny security all the way down to the field level on specific screens. So you have the ability to manage that at a very granular basis. Security is also going to determine what shows up here on the screens for your various users. So from here, from the sales order area, I can navigate to the system using any of these menus here. There are also buttons up here at the top, so if there are things that you need to get to quickly or frequently, you can do that. But I also want to show you that a lot of the screens display in this grid view, and that's called a generic inquiry. And we'll be taking a look at what you can do with these grids or these generic inquiries again in a little bit. You'll also see that there's that side panel that we were looking at in the orders to ship screen a little bit ago. There is another version of that side panel here. This one, though, has a couple of different buttons. So these are all the sales orders that I have in the system. Clicking on this little button here shows me the associated sales order for the one I have selected in the grid. This one over here takes me directly to the customer for that sales order. So if I click down on each one of these, I can get to that customer quickly. So again, I don't have to go to another screen, another menu option. I can just click a button and I'm right where I need to be. So let's take a look at some of the things that are within sales orders and talk about some of the things that make Acumatica very usable and very powerful. So the first thing here is that we can have, obviously the customer that we're selling to and the location that that is getting shipped to, the items that we're going to send to that customer. So pretty much the kinds of things that you would expect to see for any sales order type system. This one also may have been promoted from an opportunity from the CRM module. I'm not going to show you that today, but I do want to let you know that if CRM is of interest to you, that you can start off a sales opportunity from the CRM area, promote that to a quote, promote that to a sales order, and it all works seamlessly and gets fulfilled from there. So a few different things that I wanted to point out here from within the sales order module is that a lot of the menus and functions within Acumatica are very process-based. So again, making it very easy to go from screen to screen and function to function. So if I need to if I need to maybe send the sales order to the customer that I have put it together for, I can do that. If maybe the next thing in the process is to create a shipment, I have all of the next available actions presented to me here on this action screen. And this action screen is throughout the system in a lot of different places where you can perform whatever next function is available just by clicking into the actions menu. And then of course, things that don't apply are dimmed out. Also, of course, if you don't have security access to do some of those actions, they won't be presented to you. So I'm just actually going to go ahead and print this quote to this customer and send, or excuse me, the sales order and send it to the customer. So Acumatica forms are customizable, just like Sage 300 forms are customizable in Crystal reports. Acumatica forms are customizable in Acumatica's own report designer. So if you want to have your logo or have layouts changed to match your specific requirements, that's something that you can do. Also note that virtually anything within Acumatica can be emailed directly from that screen. So I'm going to show you an example of that, sending an emailed sales order over to the customer, and that will get sent to the customer as an attachment. And waiting for that to show up, and it didn't. I was hoping that that would show up here as an activity. There we go. So because I have sent that to the customer, it also records the fact that I sent that to the customer as an activity. So this can be done with sales orders, with invoices, with statements, purchase orders, virtually any transaction that you have in the system where you might interact with an outside party, you can record that as an activity against that transaction, and then you have visibility of that from that point forward. Also, I'm going to drill into the customer here just to show you that you also have all different types of activities that you can record against customers and vendors. So I've just clicked into the customer screen here, and we see all of their address information and perhaps individual contacts for that customer. But we also see all of the activities that have been recorded against that customer, including the sales order that I just sent to them via email. So this is the one that I just sent. If you want to record other types of activity against the customers, you can do that. So if you send other types of documents to them, so quotes or invoices or anything else or statements, those will get recorded to there. And if you want to record any other manual activities, you can do that too. Tasks, reminders that you might need to have. So all of that is visible from within this customer screen. Again, this is standard out of the box Acumatica. This isn't even CRM. It's nothing fancy. This is just part of the system. So a couple of other things with sales orders and sort of usability that I want to talk about that also sort of lends to things that you can do throughout the system. Again, just using sales orders as an example. Let's say that this customer, I sent this sales order to them, and it's a month later, and whatever it was that they bought last time, they want that thing again. So if I call up this sales order, I have this really great copy paste button. And this is in a lot of different screens throughout Acumatica, being able to copy something that's on the screen and then making a new one of whatever that thing is. So that was sales order, I believe it was 5904. Now I can go ahead and paste that sales order into a brand new one. And as soon as that pastes, I can, of course, change anything about it. Maybe this time, instead of one of those, they want two, and maybe they don't want this Lenovo laptop at all, so that I can delete that off. And then sales date is actually today. And maybe they want to be able to have that, next week. And I want those dates to get copied to the line items on the sales order. So that was just as simple as copying and pasting, and I have a new sales order. So you can do that with lots of different things in Acumatica. You can do it with journal entries, purchase orders, AP transactions, all different kinds of things in Acumatica. If you are in the system and have a look around, this clipboard button exists in a lot of different screens. Again, just making it easier to use. You don't have to go find the old thing and dig it up and enter it manually. Also, I'm not going to click these buttons here right now, but I'm going to point out that there is the ability to export virtually any grid-based screen of information to Excel. And I actually will show you a little example of that in a bit, and also upload information from Excel. And there are some other ways within the system that you can do some advanced importing functionality. It's just very, very accessible. One other thing I'm going to show you with respect to sales orders is, and other things within Acumatica, is that you can attach notes to virtually any record and virtually any line item on any record. So I'm going to add a note there. Can't spell though. So here's my note that applies to the sales order as a whole. Note that I can also attach notes at the line item level. So this makes it so that you can record the information that's important. Everyone else who uses the system is also able to see it. So lastly, I can also attach files to any number of places within Acumatica. So an example I'm going to show you here is that the customer has sent in a purchase order, and I want to be able to attach the purchase order to the sales order and have that as a record in the system. So I've just dragged a file over from another screen and just dragged it and dropped it right into that area of Acumatica, and it's there. I can attach multiple files as well. So not that I can only have one, I can have as many attachments here. So if you have some kind of a sales agreement that you need to attach, or a purchase order like the example that I used, anything, or some sort of contract, anything that you might need to attach, some sort of supporting documentation, you can attach files to sales orders, purchase orders, customer records, item records. Virtually any record in the system in Acumatica has a place to store files. So I'm going to go back here to my sales order list and talk a little bit more about these generic inquiries and how these can be used to find information quickly and just the things that you need to know. So this is a list of all the sales orders that I have ever processed in this system. There's 5,100 of them. That's a lot. Now, let's say, for example, I wanted to see just the sales orders that are open. So I can go ahead and do that by filtering on this status right here. Now, there's a couple of different ways I can do that. There are sort of one-time filter options. So I can click on the status column here, and I see all the possible statuses that a sales order might have. There are a lot of them. So I can clear those out and say, okay, just show me all the ones that are open. And this will show me all the open sales orders. Now, the other thing here is I noticed that there are, this over here on this side is an order type. I'm not going to go too much into what all of those choices there are, except I will tell you that these that start with QT or a quote, and maybe I don't really care about those. I just want to see those that are a sales order type. So I can choose to just show me, just see those that are a sales order type. So this is a way that I can very, very quickly go into a list of whatever it is, again, sales orders, items, purchase orders, whatever the thing is in Acumatica that you have in front of you, you can filter very, very quickly to find just the things that you are looking for. So this is really great, but maybe I want to be able to see that over and over again in the future, and I don't want to have to click those filters every single time. So I'm going to refresh my screen here. I'm going to just remove those filters. And I'm going to be back to having every single thing. But let's say I want to have a sort of a memorized or a remembered filter to show me just the open sales orders, because those are maybe something I want to check a lot. So I can do that by going over to my filter button here. And the same thing that I did sort of dynamically on the screen of just being able to select statuses and select an order type, I can do that here as well. I'm too lazy to scroll, so I always type to find what I'm looking for. So I want all the sales orders that are open and all of those that are of an order type that is SO. And if I didn't know what that was, I could always click on the little finder there and find the one that I'm looking for. And then I can save, click the wrong button, I apologize. So we'll just do that again. And choose my order type of SO. And this is something that I want to save. So I can give it a name. And if I want other people to be able to see it, I can mark it as shared. And if I click that shared checkbox, then everybody else can see that filter too. But now I have this remembered up here at the top. So if you have sort of, repeated sort of lists or criteria of things that you want to be able to see and get to quickly without having to go through, the selections every single time, again, this makes this very easy. So that's the ability to create filters and sort filters. I mentioned a little bit ago too that that Excel button that was within the sales order screen, but let's say I just want to have a list of all of the open sales orders because, I don't know, I want to make notes or share them with my production team or whatever the case may be. So I can just export that to wherever I want to. And this is going to open up over here. Oops, sorry about that. There we go. So that just exports to Excel, and it also exports very nicely. Let's see, one other really great thing about Acumatica is when you do export things to Excel, it exports in a very, very usable format. You don't have to go through it and clean it up and make it so that you can read it and use it. The fields that are exported from any screen are completely defined by you, so it'll always be the fields that show up in the grid. There may be some other fields available, so you can select to show those as well. Okay, so that was, I think that was everything that I needed to show in that area. I'm going to talk about a few other things within the sales order module specifically that might help make things easier for you. As John mentioned, there is a barcoding capability, warehouse management capability within Acumatica that's just directly integrated. So you can do automated pick, pack, and ship operations with that. Also numerous numbers of forms, and also with the pick, pack, and ship, you have the ability to have different batch packing and wave packing if you want to, or excuse me, batch and wave picking and print packing slips according to that batch or wave picking. Carrier labels, there's shipping integration. So all different kinds of things directly within the sales order module you can do that are some more advanced functionality. I did want to talk a little bit too about how you can use some of these automated screens to go ahead and do things in group mode. Let me just go ahead and find a different one. So you can process transactions individually, or you can also go to these various screens in the system to process things in batch mode. So if you want a list of all the things that you need to create shipments for, you can come into this screen and it will present you with a list. Also, anytime you see this little clock button on a screen, that means that that function is something that you can add to a schedule. And this is another great feature that Acumatica has built right in, and that is the ability to automate many, many functions. So these may be processing functions within the system, like creating shipments or sending out invoices. You can do that in batch mode. So a few minutes ago, I emailed that sales order to that customer on an individual basis. I just asked for it to do that. But if you do want to schedule the sending of emails for specific things, you can do that. You can also set up Acumatica to automate what are called business events. And a business event may be any kind of an alert where you are telling people, somebody within your organization, that something has happened or needs to happen within the system. a couple of examples I can think of recently that we did for folks. One is that they wanted the accounts receivable person to be alerted anytime a customer had been past due for more than 30 days. So we set up a simple, very, very simple alert in the system so that she gets an email anytime a customer is past due, and then she knows that she needs to take some kind of action on that. We had same company had a similar scenario where they wanted to have the people in their finance department alerted anytime a new customer was added to the system. So, because they wanted to have the various folks in the finance group be able to review all the settings that were added to that customer. So we have a business event for that. There are also various approvals that you can implement throughout the system. So sales orders is one of them. If you want to have a sales order to go through an approval process by various people in your organizations before it can be processed, you can do that. And you can, of course, add criteria to that, right? So only have the sales order go to the sales manager for approval if it is under 10% margin, or if the order is over $75,000. So there's some different things you can do there with approvals. I'm actually going to go over for just a minute, switch gears a little bit to payables to talk about another very, very common approval workflow that we have in Acumatica, and this is an AP bill approval. So I'm going to show you this by bringing up an AP bill that's already been entered into the system. And this is a phone bill that's got distribution of different dollar amounts. It's all going over to utilities, but to different sub-accounts. And these sub-accounts, this is kind of like a department in the GL. So we have some various distributions of this AP bill going to ops and finance and warehouse and sales and marketing. So I have an approval map, is what Acumatica calls it, set up in this system such that anytime a bill gets put through to one of these departments, the department heads have to approve the bill before the bill can be posted and released and paid in the system. So I'm going to click over here on this approval details tab of this AP bill screen. I'm going to take this bill off of hold, and as soon as I do that and save this bill, you can see that it has triggered that these various people have to approve the bill before it can be processed. So the finance portion has to be approved by Layla, and so forth. So all of these folks have to approve their various portions of the bill before it can be done. I'm going to show you just really, really quickly what that might look like. So I'm going to log in as Layla, who is the finance person. And with my Layla hat on, first of all, she has her own dashboard that pops up, which is different than the dashboard than we've seen before. And I can go to my approval screen. I could also have the approvals show up on her dashboard. It just doesn't happen to be configured that way. But there are a few different approvals in the queue for Layla. So one is that bill that we were just looking at, that accounts payable bill. There also, it looks like she is an approver on a couple of other purchase orders that have been issued. So Acumatica, again, can do this routing and can also do notifications. I don't have this turned on for this particular approval map, but I could. So it could be that Layla gets an email or a text message if a bill comes through and needs to have some sort of approval. So I could drill in and take a look at that. So if I am Layla, I am then seeing the part of the bill that I might need to approve, and then I have an option to approve or reject it. And if I go back to the approvals list now, that my portion of that has been approved. I'm going to log out, log back in again. I'm going to go back in as the administrator user that I have been all along. And if we go back and look at that bill now, we can see that the overall status of the bill is that it is still pending approval. Layla has approved it, but the other three parties who are on the approval map have to go ahead and do their part before the bill can be released for payment. So that's approval maps. And again, there are all kinds of things that you can use for approval maps for. But again, making the system easy to use, easy to navigate, and again, showing only the things that you care about. Like just show me the things that need to be done, and also make it so I don't have to be sending emails or asking people for stuff or routing paperwork. It can just all be handled inside of the system. I'm going to show you a little bit more about those, about a few other things in Acumatica in terms of kind of extended features that the system is capable of. And I'm going to shift gears a little bit over into the items area. And again, we're in this kind of in this realm of having a generic inquiry, a list of all the records on screen, but rather than being sales orders like it was before, this is a list of all the items. So I guess I will just click in here real quickly just to show you that another element of the usability of Acumatica is things like items and customers. You have just sort of one starting point for these records, and pretty much everything that you need related to that entity is available from one screen. So if I'm in the item screen, this is where you set up new items or maintain items. All of the information related to this particular item is accessible from within one screen. So I can see kind of warehouse storage information, my quantities on hand, which warehouses and which warehouse locations this item is stored at. If I want to see if this is something that I purchase and I want to see who I buy it from, all of the applicable vendors are here. If I have cross-references in terms of customer part numbers, which this one doesn't have, vendor part numbers or barcodes, all of this is here. If I have replenishment, safety stock, min-max quantities, etc. So everything related to an item is all available from within one screen. I also have the ability to go look at what are the sales prices and vendor prices here, and also the ability to look at some inquiries related to this specific item. So centrally located, sort of easy access, easy to get to information without having to navigate around and click around. So I wanted to look up a particular type of item, which is a resistor. So here in this grid too, I can type this filter or type part of what I am looking for, and it instantly filters for the information that I am looking for. So that's another thing that makes it very, very easy to navigate around, very easy to get to just the thing that you care about. And I wanted to have a look at this resistor item because I wanted to show you a few other things that Acumatica has sort of built into it. And that is on this particular item, I've got a picture, so you can have pictures related to items, but also this concept of attributes. So if you're a Sage 300 user, you probably know about optional fields. So this is kind of the corresponding feature in Acumatica to optional fields in Sage 300. So being able to add custom fields or fields where you're capturing information that might be specific to your industry or your organization. If there isn't already a field for that built somewhere in the system, you can add these attribute fields onto the screens and enable them. And you have all the same kinds of things that you would expect in terms of making them required or not making them required. It's going to pop over here to the customer screen too. I don't have him in customer, so I thought I did, but I don't. So you can add attributes a number of different places, customers, items, vendors. You can also add what is referred to as user-defined fields. Those are similar to attributes, but not exactly the same, but it is another way of having sort of custom fields added to the screens and being able to add information for what you're looking for. One of the last things I wanted to be sure to not forget, when I was in the screen here before, I showed you how I looked for resistor, so filtering for just this particular screen. I can find what I'm looking for very quickly. Acumatica also has this universal search at the top of the application. And what this will do is search the entire system of many different types of records. I'm going to have to rebuild my indexes. I'll just do that really quick. Sorry about that. I should have made sure that that was working before we started today. So I'll just run that really quick. We'll just run that in the background while we're talking about some other stuff. This will actually give me the chance to talk about the system indexing the things that are searchable. So just waiting for that to come up. I'll show you a couple of other things that you can search for though. So as you are using this universal search box, it actually searches for different areas of the system. So one of the things that it searches for is menu items. And while that's displaying, I'm going to pop over to here and just going to let that run for just a second in the background. So while I'm searching here for customers, searching for the word customer, this finds every single menu option in the system that has customer in the name. So I use this actually a fair bit. So you don't have to know where something is on the menu over here or even what workspace it's in. One of the examples that I actually use a lot is the sales prices screen. I can never remember what module that's in, if it's in sales orders or inventory or receivables. It turns out it's in both receivables and sales orders. Both of those point to the same place. But if I just know that I want to go to the sales prices screen, I can just type it at the top here. So I could also search and have it search the help topic. Help topics. So if I am looking for information about sales pricing and how that's done in the system, I have this full ability to search wikis and find exactly what I'm looking for. And by the way, the help within Acumatica is really excellent. So you can search topics generally. You can also see help within any particular screen that you're in. There's a help button here at the top. And as well, you can write your own help topics too and your own wikis for your organization. So if you have any desire whatsoever to write some kind of operating procedures that are applicable to just your company, you can write those into help topics into wikis, and then people can find them. Let's just check on that. Looks like that's done. So let's go ahead and look for, I'm going to look for the ABC company, which I know is one of my customers. So if I now search for ABC, it finds a whole bunch of things that are related to ABC. And most of the things it comes up with first are sales orders. But I could also just add customer or cus to the beginning or end of that. And then it will sort of narrow my search a little bit. Looks like I need to narrow it a little bit more. So now I can find all customers that have ABC in the name, and it'll take me right to that. Another example I have seen of this is of people who might need to find a specific purchase order or an invoice number or something like that. You can search for an individual document number, and it will go find that directly in the system. And I think that that covers most of the things that I wanted to share with you today in terms of general capability of Acumatica and how usable it is, easy to use, flexible, easy to navigate, and then just some of the sort of general features that you know, people, no matter which areas of the system you're using, people commonly like. So if there's nothing else, I'll kick it back to John, and or maybe we have some questions.
Hey, thanks, Rebecca. Wonderful presentation. Yeah, the question, we do have a few, most of them are specific to the customer, but one that might be of interest to everyone is on the barcode scanning, they're asking what devices work with that.
Oh, that's a great question. So, and I have kind of a two-pronged answer. So one of the answers is that Acumatica can use any mobile device that can basically take a picture. So you could do it as simple as having an iPhone or an Android, just either cell phone device that can actually scan the barcodes, or there are some specific barcode scanners that are recommended. I believe Motorola is one of the brands. There are some barcode scanners that are recommended by Acumatica and known to work. So it could be as simple as a very inexpensive, relatively inexpensive mobile device, or it could be a more heavy duty, you know, something with an actual gun attachment. And if we need to pass along recommendations of specific models, we do have that information that we can share afterwards.
Okay, thanks, Rebecca. I think that takes care of the question. So we'll go ahead and end today's presentation. It was recorded and we'll be sending that recording out to you and probably tomorrow so that you can review it again or share it with some of your colleagues. And of course, we'll follow up with you to see if we can answer any questions specific to your business and perhaps schedule a demo that's more into your line of business and your specific company. Thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great afternoon.